Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And we've got a great guest today, Jake Raburn, House of Representatives from Florida, District 57, and that's my district. Glad to have you with us, Jake.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It's an honor to be here.
This is your very first time in the state legislature.
Yes, absolutely. Just recently elected in November of this past year. Brand new to politics and enjoying every minute of it.
I have to tell you, you are reminding me very much when I had Representative Adam Putnam. Adam was very, very young at the time, and I happened to mention young, and he said, you know, I'm tired of this young business. He said, can you imagine a federal representative from the House of Representatives going out for dinner with a group of people and getting carded?
It is. Adam's a great guy, Commissioner Putnam. It is incredible to think about, you know, myself at age 28, and he was first elected at the age of 22. So to see where I am now and think about where I was in my life 6 years ago, and to imagine being elected to this body at that point, it's what he accomplished is incredible.
It is, and what he's still accomplishing is tremendous. Let's talk about a little bit about agriculture. You're in a zone that's got a lot of agriculture involved in it. What kind of background do you have?
Certainly. Well, I grew up in Plant City, so just north of the district lines for the district that I represent. Born and raised in Hillsborough County. My parents were actually both teachers, but growing up in a rural town, I was raised, you know, raising pigs and showing them at the Strawberry Festival. And
Did you keep the pigs in a closet or something there?
No, we did live on some acreage, so we had a place for them. But growing up in that rural community with that agricultural background, and my education is in agriculture. I went to the University of Florida and got a degree in agricultural communication with minors in food and resource economics.
Really? Wow.
And agricultural law. So kind of a broad spectrum, a degree that's, you know, based some in journalism, some in marketing, but all focused on agriculture and learning about ag commodities and those types of things. So having that education, and then when I graduated from school, got the chance to go to work for the Florida Department of Citrus. So
really?
Working for a state agency and seeing how a state agency worked from the inside, but still in the agricultural industry. And while I was there, I worked a lot with citrus growers and trying to get the information that coming from the department about scientific research and marketing, and getting that to growers, and being, you know, a liaison between the agency and growers, and now having the opportunity to work in my wife's family produce business, where I've been for the last several years. And
you mean making $30,000 a year as a state representative isn't enough? You have to go double dip?
Certainly, and you know, it's a part-time job, as I believe it should be. You know, I think having that experience outside of only being an elected representative, having some real-world experience in the business world and in agriculture, it gives you a different perspective when you go to Tallahassee, so that, you know, you understand how small family-owned and operated businesses are affected by the policies that we ultimately create in Tallahassee.
What do you do in the business itself now? You're working in the family business, and what do you do?
Sure, it's a small family-owned and operated business, Hinton Farms Produce. So me personally, most of my job is spent in sales. So mostly a strawberry salesman, but I also take care of all of our marketing that our company does. And it's a small business, so we all pitch in when we're needed. During the summer, when we're, you know, prepping fields, I spend some time on the tractor and kind of run the gamut of responsibilities. But we all pitch in and make it work.
I had my first lesson. I lived on a farm. I had my first lesson at 4 years old, driving a team of 3 Belgians. And my dad said, listen, I'm going to kill you. Just sit on the plow. Every once in a while, shake the reins and let the horses go where they want. They know how to do the field.
That's incredible. We do mostly everything on tractors now, but...
Well, I remember the first time they let me have a tractor, I broke the reach on a wagon. Turned it too sharp, crack. My Uncle George, I thought he was going to kill me. Tell me about the reasons you decided to go into politics. I mean, I can't imagine why anybody does this. I'm glad they do, but you don't have any time of your own.
Sure. So one of the things that I did in my private life prior to this is I sit on the board with Hillsborough County Farm Bureau.
Okay.
So through that, I had been exposed to Tallahassee and DC and going to those places and fighting for ag issues, and which are essentially small
okay.
business issues.
Sure.
So I'd been exposed to it, and really through redistricting and watching that we had a brand new seat that was drawn in Hillsborough County and a district that is very agricultural, and always having an interest, seeing how our family business is affected by government, and wanting the chance for one day my son to be able to take over our family business if he wants to. So just trying to make sure that our state continues to be a place that's profitable to own and operate a business, but also a great place for families to live and people to want to be here.
Well,
So-
I have to go with you on this redistricting. Quite honestly, our district down there in Sun City Center started down in Sarasota, came up, hooked around, took the north end of Sun City, and then the other representative took from up around Plant City, Lakeland, came down and took the bottom end of Sun City Center. And it's really nice to have you right there in Riverview.
That's, I heard a lot about that on the campaign trail, that especially the people in Sun City Center were excited to finally have a representative that would represent both sides of 674, both sides of the road, and a representative that really is in Hillsborough County. And before, the way you were split, you had a Polk County representative and a Manatee County representative. So it's great to be able to represent people in my home county where I grew up, where I was raised.
Let's talk about your trip up to the legislature. When you first went up there, what did they do with you?
Well, it was, when we were there for swearing in and for the opening days, it really was a little bit overwhelming, just being new to the process.
There's a lot of graybeards up there.
Sure. And being young and knowing that in the back of my mind, that, wondering, are people going to take me seriously? Are people going to look at my experience and my background and not necessarily my age? But to be honest with you, the job that we're there to do is so important that I never felt like I was marginalized because of my age or treated differently.
Your vote counts.
Absolutely. And, a member that has a bill coming through committee has to come and sit down in my office and explain the bill and ask for my vote, just as I have to do the same in return. So I really, I've been asked that several times by reporters, and really did not feel like I was treated any differently just because I happen to be a few years younger than some of the people there.
Did they have any classes for you? So Representative Danish, we were talking to him, and he said that they had some, and Dan Rollerson also said they had some things that went on. What did they prepare you before the session began?
Sure, certainly. As you know, when we first get there, we're placed into a committee structure, and so typically those areas that the committees that you sit on are the policy issues that you focus on for that session. So the beginning stages of those committee meetings were really educational. We didn't start the first week of committees talking about bills and looking at bills, and we spent a lot of time understanding the background of the issues that will come through those committees and the state agencies that answer to those committees essentially through legislation. So they really did a good job of educating us on those policy areas, because we all come to Tallahassee with different backgrounds and different expertise. So being placed on a healthcare committee, say, and you may not have a background in healthcare. So the staff in Tallahassee really does a great job educating you on the issues that you'll see coming through your committee.
So staff is extremely important up there, I assume.
Absolutely. We rely a lot on staff for information and a lot of times background, because they've been there for so long, many of them.
Where the bones are buried.
Right. and understanding, if a statute was changed in the past, maybe why it was changed or how it got changed. So understanding some of that institutional knowledge that's, necessary moving forward, because you don't want to make the same mistakes you've made in the past.
That's absolutely true. You have to be very careful, because the roadmap to the past is very important to us. We've got to see what it is so we can go forward. And you make a very good point there. What committees did they put you on?
Great. I was on 5 different committees.
Okay.
So, 4 subcommittees and 1 main committee.
Okay.
I sat on K through 12 education.
All right.
Sat on education appropriations.
Having parents that were teachers,
Yes.
you've got some advisors right there.
Absolutely, and I lean on my parents a lot as it comes to, you know, any sort of educational issues.
Sure.
My parents both were administrators in Hillsborough County school system, so my mom's now retired. My dad still worked for the school system, but you know, absolutely use them for their knowledge. And my mom recently retired with 38 years in the school
Wow.
system. So drawing on her knowledge and her experience and her background, knowing that I'm getting good advice when you're getting it from your parents.
You know, at least it would be advice that you didn't have to question whether or not they had an ulterior motive giving it to you.
Absolutely.
And I would expect that all of these people up there that are lobbyists, they're drawing a paycheck to get you to change your mind or add something or detract something.
Absolutely. And the lobbyists are in Tallahassee. They're there. They're necessary. But you have to remember, at the end of the day, they're getting paid to convey whatever message it is they're getting paid
and
for.
whoever pays the most still convey that message. There's hardly any side of that.
Right. And there's a lot of great people in Tallahassee that are lobbyists, but you do have to always be cognizant of that fact that they're getting paid.
What other committees? You were on two educational committees.
Sure. Beyond that, I was on health innovation.
That's interesting. What's health innovation?
Health innovation, so some of the issues that deal with managed care in the Medicaid system and moving to that managed care model, we looked at issues like those. There were bills dealing with health insurance. We saw some of those bills come through that committee. And issues dealing with nursing homes and skilled nursing facilities and the Agency for Healthcare Administration. So some of those rules that are promulgated by ACA and issues that they regulate and oversee, those come through that committee.
That's a pretty hot committee.
It is, and it was
some real hate, or not, excuse me, hate too. There's a lot of heat on that committee.
Sure, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing some issues this year. You know, we've seen some things in the news recently about children in those nursing facilities in Florida, and there was a few still left, and I'm sure that we'll see some issues about that this year in the legislature. So I'm looking forward to that. That was an area where I didn't have an expertise in healthcare, so being exposed to that and learning about that part of our state, that part of our economy, the portions of population that are served through ACA and through those organizations, I really enjoyed that committee and getting to learn something about that.
You know, Representative, sometimes, I was just going to say, it's important to put fresh eyes on something.
Absolutely.
Somebody that isn't really involved in it, hasn't been involved in it, doesn't have a track record or anything to defend, that can actually go in and look at it with new eyes.
Right, and that's one of the things that I think is great about our process, because like I said, you know, each member comes to Tallahassee with a different expertise. So then getting to Tallahassee and being placed in committees that aren't your expertise and getting to take a second look at some of those issues that have been looked at over and over again.
Yeah, when Will Weatherford was on the show, that was one of the things we talked about. And that was a point he brought up, and I really agree with him. Putting people on committees that don't have long expertise does give fresh eyes on it.
Absolutely. So, and it was interesting this year. So in the committee structure, I wound up on 2 education committees, a healthcare committee. I also wound up on the Transportation and Highway Safety Committee. So I had education, healthcare, transportation, and then the main committee was state affairs, which oversees, you know, government issues and agricultural issues, the main committee that oversees ag issues. So I really ran the gamut from those different policy areas.
So state transportation, that's another hot box right there.
Absolutely.
You have the most dangerous highway in the state going through your district.
Absolutely.
Route 4 is awful. I avoid it like the plague.
And that's, you know, in that committee, I got the chance this year. I carried the highway safety and motor vehicle bill, the agency package, and was a massive bill. But again, there really got the chance to understand a lot more about transportation and how our state works.
Did that committee touch on rapid transit at all?
Oh, we did.
That another committee?
Oh, we did not touch on rapid transit this year at all. In that committee, I'm not sure if there were any other committees that saw that issue, but it wasn't wasn't a hot topic in Tallahassee.
Because that will be one that's getting hotter here. As I read the paper, we're seeing all different people lining up that we've got to do something about providing rapid transit. We just can't pave over the whole county.
Right, and that's, I think, in the short term, we're probably going to see more focus on that on the local level. And so at the county level, here in Hillsborough County, I know that they're constantly meeting. I just heard about some regional meetings they're going to be having for public input that specifically deal with rapid transit on buses and looking at light rail and some of those other things as well.
I'd love to see some light rail, to be honest with you. And it may not be economically sound at this minute to build it, but it'll never be cheaper.
Right, and
there's right now.
And you have to look at an issue like that. And in our district, and in Hillsborough County, such a wide county, you do get some pushback, especially on that East Hillsborough County area from people that, if we're going to be raising taxes to pay for it or however it's funded, the people on the east side of the county want to make sure that if they're paying for it, it's going to be something that they have that's going to give them some sort of benefit and use.
I'd love to see.
So have to be
I'd love to see a
that.
light rail starting out in Sun City Center and going to the airport with some kind of easy connection. If I go to the airport right now, it costs me $45, $50, maybe even $60 to go to the airport, and my wife goes with me. It's surely $60 and probably more. And it would be so nice to have a light rail that either dropped me downtown or took me on, and I'd rather pay for that than a sports stadium.
Right, and I agree. There were several issues in Tallahassee this year, some different areas looking for dollars for sports stadiums in the state, and our legislature stood up and said that's not going to happen this year, not under this current administration. So
well, I stand with you.
And those bills didn't even have enough traction to make it to a House floor vote. So not even every member got the chance to have a say on that. But
I don't understand. General Motors is going to come here, and we wouldn't build them a building and build them a factory. Just wouldn't do it. And I don't understand why we're spending money on sports teams that are making huge amounts of money.
I agree. I completely agree. And that I was glad to see that bill didn't have the traction that it needed to pass ultimately.
I'm glad to hear it.
But I do think that we're doing a great job on some of those economic incentives at the state level to get jobs here and to get real jobs that are going to be long-lasting jobs that will bring people here, bring families here. Quite exciting that in Southeast Hillsborough, right across the interstate from Sun City, that we're still looking at the possibility of getting an Amazon facility.
Well, it's exciting, except for I'm an Amazon Prime member. I buy a lot from them. I'm going to have to start paying sales tax. Whoop, I don't buy a lot from them, promise.
But I have heard, that for people who are closer to that Amazon facility, you're free 2-day delivery and maybe same-day delivery. So, but exciting that, almost 1,300 jobs, 1 million square feet of building right in our county, and that will definitely be giving back to our county's economy.
And there might even be a store there where you can go buy returns. Get some special
Maybe.
deals. You never can tell. You've been up there now for a while. You've been on the campaign trail. What is your vision for Florida from your standpoint? What do you hope to add to make Florida a better state for the people who live here and maybe for those who decide to come here?
Sure. One of the reasons I ran, wanting to make sure that one day my son has the ability to take over our family business if he wants to. Florida is a place that's desirable. People want to come here because of the great natural resources that we have here in our beaches, but people also need to have great school systems. We need to have infrastructure in the state to be able to move people and move goods. And at the end of the day, just wanting Florida to be a place where people want to be, they can come here, they can own and operate a business, and just a place that gives people the economic freedom to have the American dream. So really wanting to help continue to make Florida a place that can happen for people.
Something else you mentioned when we were in the green room before we came out here, we were talking about the environment, and that's something that's very important to you.
Absolutely. As an agriculturist and making a living off the land, it's important in our industry that we are responsible about the environment, and that in our day-to-day operations that we're doing the right thing, because at the end of the day, we have to have the land to make a living. So making sure that we're taking care of those resources. We talked a little bit about water, and from my perspective, water is one of the biggest issues in our state and is going to only continue to be a bigger issue and a bigger problem as our water resources continue to decline. So over the next couple of years, I hope to work with some other members in the area, and hopefully we can come up with some good, solid policy on water in our state so that we make sure...
We really need to do that. Swift Mud does a middling job, and we need them. But there's a lot of things I think could be done better.
Absolutely, and so we're looking at some possibilities of some ways that, that we can look forward for water in our state, and I'm not talking the next year or the next 2 years, but for the next 30 years, the next 50 years of how are we going to assure that we have a clean, safe water supply in our state so that our state can continue to prosper economically for businesses and families.
It'd be nice to get that reservoir back online.
It would, absolutely.
Do you have any idea how long? I know it's out of your district, but do you have any idea how long it's going to take to get that back filled up and ready to go?
I haven't heard I know it's under construction now. It actually is in the district. So
oh, is it?
It is, yeah. My district
it's over there.
Is a wide, tall district, and I haven't heard any projections for dates, but I'm sure Tampa Bay Water is working hard to try to get that reservoir back online.
What did you see as the most contentious issue while you were up there on this last go-around?
Sure. Hands down, the most contentious issue was the healthcare debate and how our state is going to react to the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. So, the federal government, basically we had two decisions to make at the state level this year, two decisions we were asked to make. First was, are we going to set up state healthcare exchanges? Okay. Or are we going to do that on a state level, or are we going to let the federal government do that? And then the second question was, do we accept federal dollars from Washington to expand our Medicaid population? Two of the most contentious issues. The issue dealing with healthcare exchanges was less controversial, and it was a bipartisan answer to say, no, we're not going to do that on the state level. We'll let the federal government do that. And I think it's important to note, too, that the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate both saw healthcare as such an important issue that they actually developed specific committees, select committees, to deal with those specific two issues. So that wouldn't deal with any other issues related to healthcare, but answering those specific questions. So in the end, the House had a plan, the Senate had a plan, they were different, couldn't agree, so nothing happened. But I certainly think that will be an issue that we address this following session. So still be a hot topic.
How do you lean?
Sure, and I'm very clear with my constituents too as to the approach I took on that. The state healthcare exchanges, I believe it was unanimous. We said the committee's recommendation to not set up our own, we wouldn't do that, and I voted in that way. On taking the federal dollars and expanding the Medicaid population, I sided with the proposal that the House approved, which was not to take the federal dollars and to not to have a full expansion of Medicaid. What we did in the House, we came up with our own plan that would give health care to those who need it the most, and there was a portion of the population that our plan didn't cover that a Medicaid expansion plan would have covered. And so our plan covered under 138% of the poverty level. It covered infants, children, families, pregnant women, the disabled, the elderly. The only portion of the population that would not have been covered under our plan are single childless adults over the age of 21. And that was kind of a philosophical decision, is, should we be providing health care insurance to a 25-year-old that's not married, that doesn't have kids, that's not disabled? Should we be doing that? And the decision that we made as a legislature was no, that we shouldn't.
I can't argue with that, but sadly, if they don't have anything, they'll go to the emergency room and get covered anyway.
There is, and we looked at a lot of data, and there's several states that have expanded their Medicaid populations, and for whatever reason, their their emergency rooms and their hospitals
Still busy, huh?
aren't seeing a decline in charity care. So no one can really put their finger on why, but the data isn't showing that expanding that Medicaid population would actually address that problem.
I promised you a minute to thank the people who helped you in your campaign and
Sure.
to promise those that didn't that you're still going to represent them. So would you like to take that minute?
Absolutely. So just want to say thank you. It really is truly an honor to have the opportunity to serve in the legislature and to represent Hillsborough County. I thank you so much, those that supported me in the campaign, those that voted for me, and I really do appreciate this opportunity. It's not an opportunity that many people get the chance to do, so it is truly humbling, and it's an honor. To those of you that didn't vote for me, I'll never know who you are, so please come to our office. We would be glad to help you. If you have any issues, we will either find you an answer or we'll have the answer for you, so please let us help.
Well, you've got two good staffers, Mary and Clay.
Absolutely.
And both of them have been very, very helpful every time I've called up to the office for any reason or another. And they didn't know we had a TV show the first time I called in there. So they were still very, very healthy. So it doesn't really matter who you are when you call. But call your state legislature. You'd be amazed. If you're going to go up to Tallahassee, call them first. Let them know you're going. There's some great tours up there they can help you set up. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
And Tallahassee's got a wonderful, wonderful city. I had a chance, Audie, that was working for Rhonda Storms at the time, set me up with all kinds of different tours. And it was fabulous. I truly enjoyed it. So there's a lot more than just calling you up and complaining about something not happening, right?
Right, absolutely.
I have to tell you, I have really enjoyed your being here, and I hope that you'll come back.
Absolutely, anytime.
And I really look forward to seeing what happens in the legislature this next time around. When does the next session start?
Starts the beginning of March. So
you get to retire and do nothing between now and then because it's a part-time job, right?
No, we'll be back in Tallahassee in September starting committee meetings. So they keep us busy.
Representative Raburn, thank you so much for being with me, and I do look forward to having you on the show again. I'm Bill Hodges. This is Spotlight on Government. We've had Representative Raburn from the 57th House District here in the state of Florida. You've been a great guest. I've appreciated you being with me. We'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government show. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, you know. We'll see you very soon again. And Representative Raburn, I hope the same can be said of you.
Thank you so much.